Hey guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I am doing a book review for the book Allegiant by Veronica Roth. This is the third and final book in the Divergent trilogy, and essentially after the things that have happened in Insurgent, we kind of have to follow the gang as they try to figure out really what is on the outside of the world that they have known their entire lives. So a lot of this book is basically finding out a lot about what's been going on, and they find out some very strange information about the world outside and exactly how their place came to be. So, despite what a lot of people have told me about this book in particular in terms of the Divergent trilogy, I actually really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people were really upset, especially about the ending of the novel, therefore the ending of the trilogy, but I honestly really enjoyed it. I thought it was very thought-provoking in terms of just how far humans can go in terms of trying to right those that are considered different or considered unimportant or even damaged, if you will, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I honestly really did enjoy the ending of the entire trilogy. I did cry profusely afterwards, but I did enjoy the way that things had gone about and how the trilogy had essentially ended, and I definitely think that it was a much better conclusion to a trilogy that I have seen in a very long time. And the reason I say that is because the entire book itself wasn't always super fast-paced, which I really liked. A lot of the story was actually a lot of build-up, trying to learn about the things about the outside world and about the people themselves that were involved in the society that Triss and Four were a part of. And I really liked that aspect because it gave us a lot of information into how the society was actually built, and a lot of information about Triss and her past and her parents' past and how they got together was a huge part of it. There was also a lot of tension between Triss and Four themselves as they were trying to basically rekindle their relationship and try to start over in this new life that they've started together. It was just a very interesting difference between Insurgent and Allegiant because Insurgent was much more fast-paced, much more dire for our characters in terms of the situations they were in, whereas Allegiant didn't really get super dire until I would say about 3/4 of the way through the book, which I really liked because again, I loved the idea of using the build-up to essentially start giving us a lot of information in terms of where kind of things are and how things actually started from the very beginning. I will say, though, that sometimes it did seem to drag on here and there, but not to the point where I felt bored. It was just there were a lot more lower points where there was more conversation and kind of more contemplation from both Triss and Four's perspectives as the novel was divided up between their perspectives. Speaking of multiple perspectives, so this novel really is focused between Triss and Four's perspectives, which is very different than the other two books in the Divergent trilogy, as the first two books were essentially from just Triss's perspective. Now, I'm not sure as to why Veronica Roth had decided to include Four's point of view, but I really did enjoy that, and I wish that it actually would have been implemented in the first two books of the series because I really think that it would have given us a lot more in both Divergent and Insurgent as it did in Allegiant. I think seeing a lot of things from his point of view in Allegiant really gave a more well-rounded idea as to the kinds of different camps of thought when it comes to this place outside that they get to and kind of the differences between thought and how things should be going. And essentially there's a really big struggle in leadership, I would say, because Four has his own ideas that he thinks Triss isn't doing and things that he thinks should be done differently than how Triss is thinking. And so I like that there was a little bit of tension between the two of them because of that, and seeing things from his perspective also gave us a lot more information in terms of his past and a lot of things that we wouldn't have known otherwise if we hadn't seen his perspective. And that makes me very excited to read the prequel novella Four. It's essentially 2 years prior to Triss's choosing ceremony, and it goes through his choosing ceremony and follows his adventures in Dauntless as he starts becoming an initiate. And so I'm really excited to see that because I really did like Tobias's voice a lot. I really enjoyed his strength and kind of his vulnerability too, because although he's supposed to be this tough guy kind of character, he is very vulnerable, especially when it comes to Triss, and it really kind of warmed my heart to see some of the things that he would think about her. Like I said, I really did cry at the end of this novel. There was something that basically happened that I think changed the whole tone of the novel and the series itself, and although I didn't exactly like the way that it ended, the way that it was gone about, I do think that the ending did actually do a lot in terms of really exemplifying how important the character Triss is in terms of the entire trilogy. It really kind of showed her as who she really is and what she really stands for. And although I was very sad about what happened, it didn't really sway me to the point where I started to hate the book. I actually still really, really enjoyed it. But I do understand what a lot of people have said about the ending of Allegiant and how it made them upset and how they didn't understand and how they absolutely hated the end of the series because of it. But for me, I still really enjoyed it, and it's actually one of my more favorite dystopian trilogies that I've seen in a very long time. And I know a lot of people would say it's actually much more juvenile, but in my opinion, I think that the way that it's constructed and the way that the story is told is very well done. I think that Veronica Roth really has a very clear writing style that is very casual, but it's varied in its tempos. It really just sucks you into the story super well, and this has happened for me in Divergent and Insurgent and in Allegiant. I was sucked in immediately. I understood what was going on. I was able to follow a lot of the history that was brought into the series a lot easier than I had expected, because although it's hard to explain to a person, if you read the actual history of what exactly has happened with the city in terms of how it was built, that is easier to understand than if someone was to tell you how it happened. And so I think that Veronica Roth's writing style throughout this trilogy has grown, but it has also at the same stayed consistent, I would say. It's grown in the fact that it's definitely taken a different kind of a tone in each book so that we understand what the stakes are, but it's also remained consistent in the sense that there wasn't really any change in voice between Triss and Four unless it was a specific event that happened that naturally would change their tone, but it wasn't a change in tone between the books that seemed out of place. So that's really all I have to say about Allegiant by Veronica Roth. I don't want to give really too much away of this story because it is the final book in a trilogy, and I know that there are still some people out there who have not read, but I will say that I did really thoroughly enjoy this trilogy, and I'm very excited to be able to read the prequel of Four, and I heard that there's 2 other prequel novellas involved, which I don't know if I could find, but I would be interested in reading them if I was able to find them. So if you know of where to find the other 2 prequels to the Divergent trilogy, please let me know down in the comments below. So I did end up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. It is by far my favorite, I think, out of the entire trilogy of Divergent. I think the order would be Allegiant, Divergent, and Insurgent. And yeah, so if you guys did enjoy this review, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And leave a comment down below letting me know what your thoughts of Allegiant were if you read it. I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys!